Sanje Chedan Zojin Janala Shanja Bada Dana Josum Che Dake Chishe Jebe Sonam Je Dola Benja Zanjin Jo Sanje Chedan Zojin Janala Shanja Bada Dana Josum Dake Chishe Jebe Sonam Je Dola Benja Zanjin Jo Sanje Chedan Zojin Janala Shanja Barda Dana Gyaltsen She Dake Shishe Jebe Tanam Jen Rola Penjara Sanje and Rabbi Shu. Do you have some tea or water or something? Ah, yeah. Okay. 다 지나 가도 사람 때 여러 사고도 로로 와. 그래 담주로 서로
뭐면들
거기
갈도
신발 있게 잡서 신발
그래
신발 타서
내가 거서
제가 지금 땅이네
그래 뭐
가시 야야 강들 땅 알아서 배는 남주 소속은 나설 소속은 통설 아니 소속은 쌈설 하여튼 내게 전에 가서 다 지금 강의 춘주 지난 남주가도 강의 첨부 봐 소식하더니 이것도 와.
So now we go to the most complicated text again. So anyway, because of our perception, the way we see the things, the way the things appear to us, and the way we think, because of that, even if it's a very small thing, we create it, we make it or create it, as a very big thing.
와. 배차전은 소속은 배나 다 가시로. 배나 소속 동바도 지금 보통으로 돼요, 나. 대전에 나와 못 보면 소속은 많다고 지금 니마 직된 통화이나. 아니 telephone 남통 담으면 뭐 그랬어.
So, for example, if you had a pimple on your face for a long time, but you didn't notice, and then for a long time you didn't notice, but then one day when you notice it, and because of that thing, after you notice it, then you start to think so many things.
제가 전에 용도 전에다는 내렸다는 단 대기 누가 진사래. 단 미기다는 내가 야본 통사 말해. 아니 초록 첨바나 아니 내가 증에도 삼이 소소 따대 입어서 와도. 아니 밑삼에 그 소소 그렇지 계시되고 있더니 소소 통그랬어.
Okay. And then we make this all up in our mind.
The gray, okay?
So then we start to think about it a lot, right? So like we might think that, oh, this is maybe something malignant, like something bad, or maybe people will think of me as being very ugly or not looking beautiful and so forth. And then even when because of that, like you feel like everybody's looking at you at your pimple.
제가 들으려고도 제가 가도 된지 샘금 가도 빼나 강의 춘주 강의 빼나 따지 그러니까 강의로 빼나 제사 자요나 제사가요나 가도 제사 구축공화 샘부 소식하고 그래 뭐지.
So like our problem, is only maybe about 5%. The percentage, it's only about 5%. But our mind creates like 100%. So maybe only is 5%, but 95% is created by our mind.
제장 아주 그대이나 다 시당 앞에는 지지에서다 고유가 차네. 담보 살롱을 정도가 차네. 땅도 배워다 이시한테 나가면도.
Yeah, so from the way you grow up, it's different, from Tibetans and Asians, right?
제장에 지금 간제 세바 부수도 초조라고 시. 세물라 포초조라고 시. 대가도 영어도 와.
So it's very easy to be offended, very easy to anyway, so you become very sensitive.
제가 대파지 충주권에 야 파지 탈롱 정도라 짓고 내가 요살 때.
And it could be, it could be related, with the way you are brought up.
제가 딱 간들의 남주인 하나서 지금 선바티 때딱 가리는 용쓰기리 선바티 고도다. 땐데래샤.
So our mind, in a way, we should be always prepared, thinking that anything can happen, anything is possible to happen.
대삼토대 저도 삼토대.
Are you able to think like that?
대가도 레그면도 같아.
Yeah,
제가
it doesn't come easily, right?
제가 텐데지 섬나 타디 요바 있나? 근데 챌린지 강에다 만들면은 텐데 타디 요바 있나? 강에다 테스 돈을 줘 펜사로 와.
So if our mind is prepared, in that way, and prepared in that way, thinking that anything can happen, whatever happens, it's possible to happen like that. If your mind is prepared, then when thing actually happens, then your mind is more prepared, So it'll be easier to handle that.
시당도 시당 름반디는 로타체나 시차니 아니 셜록고 가르고 셜록은 되기 전에 다들 제게도 와 가리나 내려 영어 배나 가도 인슈를 로나 지지나 가도 로치 나가 말다 나요나 대체대에서는 다 고주 지지나 롱아 미친 나가 말해 얘나 그 나와서 뭐 못해 되거든 왔다 나와 있는 데에서 다들 제게도 와 셜록고 전에
But in this country, externally you are very well prepared. Externally, right? Like for example, insurance, the health insurance, thinking that you might get sick, and at that time you will need, the insurance to, cover the expenses for your medications and so forth. And so maybe you might use it, once in a year, or maybe don't have to use it for 4 or 5 years, but you pay every month, thinking that, you might have to use it sometime.
제가 다 대로가도 샘라 저도 제도고도 샘라가도 대로 고리 제고도.
So externally you're really well prepared like that, but internally, if you can prepare like that your mind, if you can prepare your mind like that, for it to be able to accept whatever happens.
제가 다 대고 주쇼께서 이렇게 말해. 대시당 남주는 로다래도 대대다 고 냐래 대대요나 강게된 테베칼라 코 강게다 돈을 제도 걸어 봐. 대대 집어스 땅가도 강게 치료도 생각 강게들도.
So just like that, when you are prepared, with the insurance, then when you got sick, then you have somebody to pay for it, and then you don't have much problem, right? So just like that, if your mind is prepared, then when you face the problem, your mind is ready to be able to handle it. So it's not a religious thing. It's not a religious or spiritual practice. It's the reality. It's the way things are in the life, right? And so if we can prepare our mind in that way, then it will be really helpful to overcome the problems.
제가 다 텐데기 고리대 빼나 강게된 테베칼라 것을 제도고 말해. 전에 돈을 제도고 말해. 마치베는 단단히 고다 가지 늦에 마타베 라지 봐. 간지 제가 나시가 라지 봐. 아니 다니 파섬을 다 니에서도 고 가로 딱 방름 세거나 가로 딱 가지고 지라야지 어떻게 다니라 가로
다니 파섬
다니 파섬 지 요말라 가로
다뇽
따뇽서 다 다이나 다이 자 따뇽 녀는 인지 요마 가니 전로 삼지로 근데 어다 테섬라 제토이나 텐데 편살데.
So so we have to prepare our mind, by doing the practice, meditation practice. Of course, when the things happen, we know it's possible to happen. We know it is impermanent. We know we have created a karma to experience that. We know that, but when that situation befalls on us, it's really difficult to handle at that time, unless we have done practice, right? So therefore, we have to always keep on practicing about death and impermanence, about karmic law of cause and effect, all these things, and then seeing that, thinking that, oh, friend is not the uncertainty of the relationships, right? The friend is not necessarily going to be friend all the time. Friend can change into enemy, and enemy is not going to be enemy all the time. It can change into a friend. And so if we keep on meditating and practicing like that with that thought, then when that happens, when our dear friend changes, turns into an enemy, then we're not that much mentally attacked or doesn't suffer that much when that happens. So like when the relationships end, people go to the extent of committing suicide. That will not happen if we have always practiced thinking that, oh, there's no certainty, to the relationship of a friend, enemy, and so forth. See, like that. So we have to prepare our mind from inside.
Okay. 제가 남중한테 선바 부수 도보 맞지 부수 당가 부수 도보 막 간이 제고 말든 가지고 연락도 대대 정하다고 세당은 지금 다 그렇지. 빠르거나 차상 소소지 선마지 샤토나 내 선바 부수 맞도 펜사르다.
And so doing that way, then your mind will be less stressed, right? And we always, oh, don't be stressed, but you can't be not stressed, when the situations befall on you, right? But if you are prepared like that, then it will help, to handle the situation better. So you will not be that much stressed.
당연히 소소도 부수도 맞죠. 대변는 거 놓았어.
Yeah, so that's the mind, because everything is controlled by the mind. Therefore, therefore taming or training the mind in that way is very important.
제가 누들라고도 없네. 근데 자세 죽지 등아도 샘대 치다 등 안돌아 치대. 대 용거 말했어. 지지나 용 차거든 그랬어. 지나 뭐가 용 말이네. 나도 뒤콜라 삼마다 샘대 치대 그랬으라고도.
So most of the things that we worry, is only about 60%. 60% of the things that we worry about is something that may not happen at all, or something that already happened, and doesn't affect it now, but because it happened in the past, and so you keep thinking about that, and then that makes you worry. So 60% of worry, is either will not happen at all or has already happened in the past.
다가는 지금 내 뒤에 자세 녀sel랑 안도 치는 가로 솔라치 다가로 텔레 와샤데 개개 요 말때 마용하기로 와.
And about 20%, there is no control over it. We can't do anything. Even if we worry or not worry or whatever, there's nothing we can do. It's going to happen, so there's no need to worry about it, actually. So 20% of things we have no control over.
And 따지나 자세 뉴시된 안도 대 돈에 제고 쓰바레스.
And then maybe the remaining 20%, we might have a chance to handle it.
제다가 이제 간들 드네로 오지 다 드네 남주 삼로 남주에 선발 흘려고 용아치 소소고 즉 간제 나 선발 부두도 지금에 나 저는 좋아한 도구 말 대 탑시대 말했어.
And so thinking in that way, doing a meditation and so forth, in that way, then you prepare your mind, to be more relaxed or less stressed. And if you just say, oh, I'll be relaxed, just by saying I'll be relaxed, you will not be relaxed. You have to train your mind, and by thinking or meditating in that way, so that you'll be able to relax when stress arises.
제당아도 곰라고 잡나 곰마 무슨 자와잖아 섬란다 아무라 샤고도 나 샤 죽으면 넣고 샤데 레고도 가와이나 레고도 남라가 곰자와이 나가서.
So just like when you're doing meditation, and then your thought, all your mind is thinking about all sorts of things. And if you keep thinking that I'm not going to let it, let my mind think, let my mind think, then you even think even more and more.
그래도 지금은 코드 자행도 아주 가리네 지금은 때 에두견의 제니 좀.
Like you're forcing yourself to not think, and then you're thinking even more. Does that happen?
제가 답이 되지 않았다. 다 변한 거로서 변화 다 담보 지도 동안으로서 우기종고 우 파당 총 대소속 변화 세바 다라 파당가 요삼 춘고 요삼 디젤 거라잡는 놓고 샘도 대슈 때대한테 샘바도 주는 거 말했어.
So that's not the way, to relax your mind, to bring your mind, calm, to calm your mind. That's not the way. If you think like that, then of course, mind will be thinking more and more. Instead, you should change the object. So think about something else. Like breathing meditation is really good because you're not thinking about anything else, just concentrating or focusing on the breath. And then you say when you breathe in, you think you're breathing in. When you breathe out, you think you're breathing out. So your mind, it's just focus on that. So you're not thinking about anything else, and not thinking about all those problems, right? And so then your mind will be more relaxed.
다양한 만으로 사나 소소도 오만 배모 소소 깨를 소소nye 소소 만은 된다 자야 될 소소년다 소소 때 약보 년반에 제바치 로를 용바 대주복 대따다 녀바다 옴 카릴라근도 마 카릴라근도 너 카릴라고 대따다 녀바나 소소 셈때
And also you can use your own sound, like you recite Om Mani Padme Hum, record your recitation of Om Mani Padme Hum, and then listen to that. Just pay attention to your sound.
Record matter. So Oman so nyero, so kel so nye.
Or you can just recite, The record So anyway, so you can listen, right? You can listen to your own sound, or you can chant and then listen. Can you listen to your own chanting while you are chanting? Can you listen? So you can pay attention to your chanting. Think about the words that you're saying. Like when you say Om, pay attention to Om, and then say Ma, to pay attention to Ma, and Ni, to pay attention to Ni, like that. So just focus your mind on the words that you are saying.
어제 다대지 양 점점 변나 담에가지 샘라야. 마나 곧 인도 따따 샘나 샤주네 코라 점도야 샘바 용 말에.
And then also if you are if you don't want to pay attention to the sound, then you can also visualize the syllable itself, like the 6 syllables. Om Mani Padme Hum, visualize those 6 syllables and just pay attention to that, and your mind will not think about anything else.
제장아도 샘대가도 샘제나 남바시바 제레바고 써야돼. 아니 가로 시바 만라바 닝에도 좋다고 말했어. 그래서 그 시바직 내가 휴침부 제대로 제마도 고용고 말해.
Therefore, usually in ordinary people's mind, and only one can manifest at a time. So it's like the continuation of the mind is only one. It's like the continuation of the mind of the ordinary beings is only one. That means like only one mind can manifest at the same time. So if you're thinking about A, at the same time when you think about A, you can't be thinking about B. The B and A and the B won't come up at the same time.
근데 지나도 수보토로 간다. 수보토 첫 타워를 수보토에 셴바 샤거든. 샘나 셴바 용 말해. 근데 포버 따지 제대 맛.
So like when you're taking a shower and applying soap on your body and you're rinsing, your mind is all up thinking about, you're thinking about rinsing the soap away, right? And where's the soap? Where should I put the water? Like that. And you're only thinking about that. So nothing else comes in your mind.
제가 지나도 때 삼로다. 남중아도 그래 대랑렌지다. 되는 용어도 짓다 쇼한테 곰 잡쇼 왔어.
So yeah, check it yourself, right? When you're taking shower. Are you thinking about your body, to wash your body, or thinking about other things? Does other things come in your mind or not?
파시 나도 샘대 파시 산쇼처럼 로마리 파시 트강실 로마리.
So mostly, our mind will be just inside the bathroom itself, and it won't go out of the bathroom.
다 변화 트강에 주태 아니 아쪽으로 간 근데 파시 로스가 됐어. 다 묻히게 되는
out of the shower, and then you start to dry your body with the towel, and then you start to think maybe then it will go out of the bathroom.
다 딩헬 가르치는 거는 그 아주 삽삽슈체래. 간 샘바데 텔 슈파 때도 그 때도 따로 그러와.
So because before that, our mind is not leaving the bathroom because our mind is stuck with us. We're all carefully thinking about how to wash our body, right? Where the soap, where to apply the soap, where to rinse the soap from, and where to spread the water, and all these things. So we're thinking about that, so that the mind doesn't go out at all.
다 저도 변나 테마로 저거 듣고나 대과에서 간접이 가고 말이야. 고연데 sabdo 슈체가 누구 제용 삼네. sabdo 슈체대로.
And like when you're cutting vegetables, your mind is very focused on cutting because you're worried that if you don't focus, you might cut your finger, right? Then sometimes we lost our focus and then we cut finger.
제가 따뜻지도 푸르다. 소주 삼바데 쇼치라 야보지 때에는 셴바 용거 말해서 다 푸르다 그러다.
So that is the proof, that when your mind is focused on one thing, then the other things will not, come in your mind.
제장아도 검자가 저는 내내 찔래면 내내 깨고리지 가면된가도 샘도야 때도 매다래.
Like when we're trying to meditate, if we like hear the sound from this side or from that side, and things appear in your mind from here and there, and that means our meditation is not good. It's not able to pay good attention.
Okay, that 가도 예래가 라레 따도는 가도 땡땡 가도 샘을 팽그래로.
And so anyway, so if we can practice that on a daily basis, then that will really help our mind.
Okay. 다 드는 당아도 다 사람들이다. 다 사람들 가서 다 다른 거 빼졌다면 빼자라는 로메스. 계산하면서 빼나 빠자도 빼나 가르치네 빠자데 용거에서나 가지 다 너무 대도 되기야. 아니 예를 죽다. 너와 제단가 전에 누트도 잡아서 랍송어.
So how does these delusions arise, right? We're talking about that in our text. We're not going to go exactly like it is in the text. So it's talking about how the delusions arise. They arise by depending on what object do we engage in.
Right? When they go to the control one loba juice, control Corona don't want to the coach and bajic cola and push in any cool kajumaji church that one red door.
So like how the anger, engages, engages in a mistaken way, through the control. Like it says through the control. It has no control. Somebody says something bad thing and now you get angry. Like you are controlled by that. So it all depends on others, right? So it depends on others, and you can't control by yourself. So usually, the anger engages in a mistaken way through control.
Oh yeah. 다 나도 간다 다 빠자 도도로 지나가도 예접다 시럽니는다 그래서 다 대치 dom치게다.
So in short, all the abandonments are included within deluded obstruction or obstruction to omniscience.
Okay. 다 쪼바나 갈라오다. 저 타와 토발라 바도 주시 타와 토발라 네바다 빵 코마바나 타와 토 못행게 안에 빠자 강에 받달라 아니 예접스라 그래서 예접.
So any obstruction that obstructs one from achieving liberation is called deluded obstruction.
그거 아니 다 나지 다 안에 탐전 제바 타발라 나까지 다쳐 먹고 말래 다쳐 먹고 말래 와 아니 탐전 제바 산제 고바 토발라 네바다야 코메와 소공에달라 And
then any obstruction that obstructs one from achieving the state of full enlightenment or from becoming omniscient is called the obstruction to omniscience. And these both kinds of obstructions, they are acquired the deluded obstruction, an innate deluded obstruction, and there's also acquired obstruction to omniscience and an innate obstruction to omniscience. And you already know the difference between the acquired and innate, right? So acquired, is something that is generated, through a wrong reasons, a wrong view, wrong teacher, wrong guide. Through that, you develop that delusion, obstruction, and the innate, is something that you have it all the time, by nature or naturally, like that's something that exists even in the minds of the animals.
뭐지? 다 티나네 변했다. 근데 얘들 또 타와토발 받으시 가르나 고 잔년 주다 년년이시들 다 인게 또 되레스.
And so the deluded obstructions that obstruct one from achieving liberation. So mainly there are the 6 root delusions, 6 root delusions and 20 secondary delusions.
와. 다 나지 어디지? 아니 다 시럽 세당도 시럽 가다 자도 제와 도바 가라 공바 시럽 자도 제세지 어디지? 아니
then,
다 나지 기단다. 아니 얘들 그 바차세지래 그래서 더더레스.
Then also we talked about the obstruction to omniscience, the 108 obstruction to omniscience, right? And so those are the obstruction to omniscience, and also the imprints of the deluded obstruction are also called an obstruction to omniscience.
다 뇨모. 다 얘들 뇨모사다. 뇨모다 얘들이 가가야지. 얘들라 시바이고 말해. 뇨모를 시바이고 그래서.
And then obstruction to deluded obstruction and delusion, right? So deluded obstruction and delusion. The difference between these is if it is a delusion, it has to be a mind. But if it is a deluded obstruction, it doesn't have to be a mind.
Okay. 배나 뇨모 배나 잔유 주요와 잔유 주기 바차지로 잔유 주고 바차대. 아니 말아. 잔유 주고 7대 아니 얘들보다 뇨모 차고 말해서.
And for example, like the seed, of the 6 root delusions, is a deluded obstruction, but it's not delusion.
And the 7 labs was 7 lab 바차라 송.
네, 7.
7이라고.
Seed.
바차도 시럽 차는 거래. 바차도 얘들 말해서.
And so then the imprints, the imprints left by the deluded obstruction, becomes the obstruction to knowledge or obstruction to omniscience.
간제 7세대 깨는 되나 변한 내차고 7세대 깨는 되나 내차고 견적이 되니라 내차고 7라 그래서.
And so the seed, is like, for example, when the seed of the attachment, when it meets with the condition, then it changes into attachment. So that's called the seed of attachment.
아니 내차고 변나 바차세대 고 깨는 내차고 오죠말 내차고 오죠말 맞아. 얘나 되게 깨지네요. 아니 지금 내나 깨야다. 야 너무 심하게들이 반부로 그래서.
And then the imprint of the attachment is not doesn't when it meets with the condition doesn't make it doesn't make the attachment arise, but it creates a condition. When that meets with the condition, then it makes other kind of delusions arise.
배차지는 알아서 부 안에 변나 부야 부지 잘라 셈냐면 차잖아 부고 점마다 잘라 셈만 거거든 나 부고 때 점마대 되게 점마대 잘라 셈고 오지야요 말아서 제가 때고 바차로 그래서.
And so, for example, like the smell, the odor, of the incense, right? It's very strong. So if you, put the incense with something else, like with your cloth, so your cloth will also have the smell of incense, right? But the cloth cannot become, incense. So that's the imprint, of the incense.
다 된지가 아니 변나 가서 온다. 부도 소야가 잘라지로 뭐 변나 부대서 왔다 신호가 되게 신이 다데 그 사회 작업에 되게 괜찮은 주마 갈래 갈고 붕고 바쁘는 거로.
So the herb or the plant that creates the incense, that's the seed of the incense. So that plant or the herb that's used to make the incense is the seed of the incense because that changes into incense. So that's called seed.
오케이. 어다 되는다고. 강들 제자 아니 변한 내차기 바차다베디 만 내차가 세븐데 내차 말에 이제 깨들은 그 내차 차는 거래.
So the seed of the attachment is not attachment, but when it meets with the condition, it can turn into attachment.
하나 지금 내차기 세ven 바자대 내장원 로 말해.
Like that, also the imprint, of attachment will not become attachment.
그 배치는 가도 둘러나고 이제 작파로 거나 다 작파 참모도 자기 그래. 그 작파 참모도. 근데 숲슉 첨부잖아 뭐 다음에 동이 들어와. 바자세야 돼.
So like the dirt, like a very subtle dirt, not the thick dirts, but the subtle dirt, so that really needs lots of application of a soap, to get rid of it. So that kind of subtle dirt, will be like the imprint.
And the seventh 고든에 깔려가고 요 말했어.
So the seed is not that difficult like that.
오케이, 다대하고 다대로 다 하고 왔어.
So now you understand that part, right?
오케이, 다듯이 다 가는지 방거리스 다 오나 가는도 방도 그래. 방다죠, 왔어.
And so then how do we abandon? The way it is abandoned is
배난 돈방다 다들 간제 돈바다 가는지 방거리 돈바기 배난 돈바 받지말고 돈바 가는지 방거리스. 안에 따왕가도 따망가. 그거 가는지 방거리스 다 저와 되려 버렸어.
So the way it is abandoned, the way it is purified, right? So how does a practitioner on the path of seeing abandons the abandonments now part of seeing?
제장아 배나 다 배나 다 그거 샤고다. 배나 대세라고 배샤와이나. 아니 대세가 소놈도 요놈 강가 아니 딱 꾸다가 님보 자기 그래서 누구한테 못 꾸다도 님보 자기 그래서.
And so, for example, like in the case of the Mahayana path of accumulation and preparation becomes like the antidote for the acquired deluded obstruction to be abandoned on the path of sin.
다 대나 방에 쪼된 돈을 받지 말라고 왔어. 방에 된 인인칭에 돈을 받지 말라고 왔어.
So the direct antidote, to that, to the acquired deluded obstruction, that is abandoned on the path of seeing, the actual antidote for that, is the uninterpreted part of the path of seeing.
다 원한 돈을 받지 말라면 이제 아니 된속 거다 다 얘도 못 거다도 여러가서 요 말이야. 차상 띵에는 가서.
So then in the mind, of the practitioner on the uninterpreted part of the path of seeing, is there acquired delusions, acquired obstruction, deluded obstruction? No, it's already ceased.
하나 지금 전화 지조 지무질라 요 말이야. 대타 제적으로 했어.
And so like that also it doesn't exist in the mind of the supreme dharma of the path of preparation.
다 배차 세단 가지나 손놈이질라 요 말이라 그랬어. 손놈이질라요.
And then according to some text, it also doesn't exist in the continuum of the practitioner on the path of accumulation as well.
다 원나 군도 빵타래. 군도질라 눈은 뭐도 빵타버려서나 다 기체 저대로 왔어.
And then if it doesn't exist in their minds, so have they abandoned it already? So that would be the question, right?
다 원나 다 가르고 그래. 다 군도질라 매와 차서 다 빵하나 가르고 그래서.
So if it doesn't exist in their mind, then what is that that to abandon?
그래서 제 장아 아니 단다 사회 방향 말이야. 단다 사회 라데 와 사회 방향 말이야.
So what they haven't abandoned, is the seed. And the seed is still there.
가르다 나 배차잖아. 간도서 미지 배나 나와이나. 미지 나와이나. 아니 매 사지 샤지 배나 샤지라고 하다 나상 군들 렌사 버려 왔어. 얘는 미드 차요 말았다. 나고 사도 채고 와.
So it's like a person with the disease, who's been cured by going through the surgery or something, right? The treatment. And so is that person, so he got rid of the disease, right? So is he really healed from the disease? He doesn't have the disease. Is he completely healed from the disease?
제가 아니 나다 배나 샤지다 나다 렌사로 왔어. 나다 요 말 기다라고 있어 말. 얘나야 단다코 나다다 차다 차요 말아. 대 차와라코 단다 마모티 하대로 왔어.
So his disease is removed by doing the surgery, right? But is he completely healed? No, he still have, is he completely recovered? No, right? He still has many things to do to get rid, to be fully recovered.
kana sabda machina tembo도 추코니 배사그러와.
So like again, if he is not careful, he may, the stitches, can go, can become loose, right, or can break, and then there will be more problems, right.
뭐다 대도 빼집어 찌잖아요 그러더나. 다 전화는 다 요매라 가지 요놈 돈옥들 요모 요 말했어. 이나 다 빵요 말 가르나 라바가가 빵들이나 세ven 빵요 말 가리 깬테나 고양조야 끼시그레스. 제가 고 단다 세ven랑 마pom받아 빵이 당이 요 말에.
So in a similar way, you can say that the practitioner on the path of accumulation, and here yes and no, right? On that one, some says yes, some says no, but definitely on the path of preparation and path of seeing, they have abandoned, the gross delusions, right? But they still have the seed left in their mind. So if that seed meets the condition, then the delusion can arise again.
제가 안에 돈을 받지만 하긴 돈바도베 세ven 빵에 가디 라마죠 지제 제대로 안에 다 빵아서 다니는 건 거죠.
And so then from the time when they have abandoned, the acquired delusion, so that it will not arise again, then you can, at that time, you can say it's abandoned.
근데 doctor
It doesn't exist and it's abandoned already.
doctor 계란맨가는 로초도 다쳐 사이더라서.
So it's you're getting a release, from the hospital.
제가
Go, you get the signature from the doctor saying that okay, now you're completely recovered and you can go home.
제가 빼때도 치바리 하고서.
So yeah, so it's very similar example, like being discharged from the hospital.
제가 돈을 받지만 배 돈을 받지만 가다에 봐서 되게 애는 도바도베 세븐 라야 게임에 니바드 카리 도바나 안에 넘넘라 켄도 그래 안에 빵도 그래서.
And so the practitioner on the path of seeing, when he or she has abandoned the abandonments of the path of seeing completely, and so that it will not arise even after meeting with the condition, and then you can say yes, at that time it has abandoned.
다 고성와 돈을 요 말에 뇨모카가 요 말에 이나 빠요 말에 저놈을 안에 빠요 말에 요 말에 다 돈을 요 말에 뭐뭐 요 레랑에 말에 라가 뭐뭐 요레스.
Yeah. So on the path of seeing, the practitioner on the path of seeing has not abandoned. It doesn't exist. It doesn't exist, but has not abandoned, and or you can say has abandoned. And at the time when it has completely applied that antidote, so that it will not arise again, even after meeting with the condition. At that time, you can say it abandoned. But on the path of preparation, definitely not abandoned. It's not abandoned and doesn't exist. No, definitely doesn't exist. But on the path of seeing, there are two, the versions. One says it exists, one says it doesn't exist. But anyway, in either case, it has not abandoned at that time.
Oh, that's 제가 때빼 놓은데 저랑 가서 빼나. 내가 참으로 때빼도 콘다고 빼텐돈 나진다 그래다 이제.
So is it similar to that example of a person, who's sick and going through treatment, and you can't say he's fully recovered unless the doctor gives the signature saying that you can go home like that? And does this example apply or not?
드네로 오래 로타드네로 전 돈을 받으면 돈을 받으면 젤라 닌투이나 태워치면나 아니 빠자 끄다 요래였는데 요 말에서 자샤잔 타치고 그랬어. 저놈 젤라 요는데 요 말에서 타 자샤자 타치고 그랬어.
And so let's say we follow that version, where it says there is no acquired delusions in the mind of the practitioner on the path of accumulation, right? And so then you can say no. Is there acquired abandonment, to be abandoned on the path of seeing in the mind of the practitioner on the path of accumulation? You can say no. But has it abandoned? No.
Sure.
So same with the path of on the path of preparation, and also same with the practitioner on the path of seeing.
가르에서는 텔라야 아니 야무나 똥바니 야무나 다메 야무나 똥바니 똑사베 차레스 공무수 또면 똑사와인다 아니 그닥 쉐마바 똑사 그닥 쉐마바 똑사도 그런 라쇼 메와차르 그 세븐트만 하고요 말해 세븐트 바자이 마토.
So because when you are in the path of accumulation and definitely in the path of preparation, you have already realized either emptiness or selflessness, right? So because you have realized emptiness, and therefore you have already realized, right? Things do not exist in a way they appear to you. You have already realized that, even though you have not realized directly, but you have realized it. Once you have realized it, then you will, you will already realize that things will not exist, and the things does not exist in a way they appear to you, or in the way you apprehend them. You know? And so once you know that, then it doesn't exist in your mind. But have you abandoned it? No, not yet.
제가 빼두샤래. 배난 돈을 받지 말아도 녀버려 왔어. 돈을 받지 말아도 아니 배나 시럽 거다니 녀럽 거다 투거나 전에 투거 말해. 배나 도와가 범바 짜거나 딱 쇼거로 왔어. 그니 투거로 와. 된 돈을 받지 말아도 아니 녀럽 거다니 투거 말했어. 되네 말해서 나와.
돈을 받지 말아도 녀럽 거다기
니녀로 왔어.
뭐니스?
얘나 그니 투거 말해. 투거라서 투거 말했어.
아니.
제자가 가는 토에 좀 받아 말했어. 가는나 돈을 받지 말아 맞게거든. 얘를 그다음 가타래. 건사지는 매워차다.
So it is said that the uninterrupted path, or the path of seeing, is the actual antidote, of the acquired delusions, right? Right. But does it meet, with the acquired delusion? Like, do they come into contact with each other? No, because it has already abandoned. I mean, because it's not there anyway. It doesn't exist. It doesn't exist anymore, right? It doesn't exist anymore because it doesn't exist anymore. Therefore, it cannot come into contact. Like when you smash a clay pot with a hammer, the hammer has to come into contact with the clay pot, right? And so when the actual antidote, the uninterrupted path, the path of seeing, overcomes or abandons the acquired delusion, it doesn't come in contact because it doesn't exist at all. It doesn't exist. Although it is the actual antidote, but it doesn't exist. So what it does is that it overcomes the seed of that acquired delusion, so that when there is no seed, then it will not arise anymore again.
빼두샤래. 배나 나도 배나 심하러 오지. 나도 야라로 섬네 배 사자 나쿠이나 로이나. 아니 코야 갈래가 야 레기레기레 코티 나쿠도 마마마마마마 갈래가 로샤가로 왔어. 맞아. 코미게 고산에 고 당보배나 강바드날라나 미게 골레가 코 나가가 나쿠간 로토 말아. 북타나 나볼하데로 와. 코야 가세 레와지 나쿠도 파뇨뇨뇨뇨뇨 코드로 대로 빼샤가로.
So there's also example like a lamp, the light from the lamp dispels the darkness in the room, right? So if you have a small candlelight in your hand, and then there's a big room that's completely dark. So as you come in, from the door, it lights only the area around the door, near the door. It doesn't light the whole place. But as you come in, it lights more and more, so come closer, to the wall. You're walking towards the wall. So, more you come closer to the wall, more light it will be towards the wall.
Okay, that is what
you understand that example?
Okay, that kanji 돈을 받지 말라 받아. 요나 치료 좀 줄라 아니 빠자 끝다 줘. 요 말이 다 제초를 쳤어.
So you can say now in the continuum of the spring dharma, path of preparation, and of the path of preparation, and the uninterrupted path, the path of seeing, there's no acquired delusion at all, no acquired abandonments. There's no acquired abandonments, but has it abandoned all these acquired abandonments? No, not yet. So that's because there is, even though that delusion is not there, the acquired abandonment is not there, but there is the seed of that acquired abandonment. And therefore, because there is a seed there, And when that meets with the condition, it is possible for that seed to arise in the form of that delusion.
대가디 아니 맞죠?나 남동라 도와대다 doctor 그처럼 사이잡다 다처럼 로총도 슬랍처래 대치 말했어.
And so when you actually have abandoned that, the event that including the seed, is when you achieve the path of release, of the path of seeing.
Okay, that is.
So that time then it's like, you have got the signature, of the doctor to leave the hospital.
다 아는 토노에나 빼나 토노에나 도보가로 도보시를 가대로 야듯이 가대로.
How many abandonments? Abandonments of the path of seeing that are obstruction to omniscience.
108.
108.
대화 첨부에나 대야다 제 뒤수치라 빵따마 찍빵으로 그랬어. 아니 다나지가 아니 대신 돈하고 맨날 저바지데 시바지 가가 깨다 찔게 그랬어. 그 노바카가 하면 그 시바 찍면 남도 받자면라 찍 남도 찍는 거 그랬어. 빠져 찍자고 차로 대화 첨부라 강가 빠져 찍자고 그랬어.
네, 가서 나도 시립 보다
그다 야다 제서.
So the acquired 108 acquired obstruction to omniscience, and that is to be abandoned in the path of seeing, is abandoned all at once, simultaneously, right? All at once. So it's if all the abandonments in the path of, in the Mahayana path, is simultaneous. It doesn't go one by one. It's all abandoned at the same time. And then also same, with the achievement, of the 8 forbearances and 8 knowledges, they're all achieved at the same time, simultaneously.
다음에 당문이 ring이나 예접거다다 시럽거다 이제 빠고 이랬고.
And so if it is a bodhisattva on the Mahayana path, who enter into the Mahayana path from the beginning without going through the other vehicles like heroes and soldier realizers, then they have to abandon both innate and the acquired delusions.
다 년도 자체마다 라자라자마 가는 또방에나 토상이나 아니 시럽 예접하고 예접고 빠서로 다 시럽만 빠고 말이지.
And so those Mahayanis, who have proceeded, the heroes or soldier realizer path, then they don't have to abandon the acquired delusions, because they already have abandoned the delusions, right? The deluded obstruction is already abandoned, so they don't have to abandon that. But they still have the acquired obstruction to omniscience, that is to be abandoned.
다들 대화 채무로 다 인투라 로와나 다 나 빠자 린지바 인투라 다 빠자 린지바 요레스 배나 담보 배나 인디 돈로 동아 치세시 대그 배나 동안 통보 받지만 동아 치세시 아니 되네 치시시 되네 근주 치세시 되네 치세시 되네 발음 전에 제 약기하지 요레스.
And so but in the Hinayana path, like in the hero's path, it's a gradual, right? So one after another. So first you develop one path, and then you abandon one delusion, and then again you develop the other path, like the first like the suffering, the forbearance of the true suffering, and then you abandon one delusion according to that, and then you develop the forbearance of the true origin, and then you abandon one like that. So the achievement is also gradual. And abandonment is also gradual.
Okay.
So that's the way it is. So do you understand now how the way what is the way of it? So that's the rough idea. So you should get, if you got that, then that's good enough for now. Of course, there's so much details to go through, but you don't have to go through all that. If you got the rough idea, that's good enough.
근데 지제대 코페에 야오다뉴기 들어. 난 저도 노르제 되게 들어. 아니 아니 콜라나다 대체 돌아 파체말라 카디 제바야나야 아니 파체말라 되게 코 빠자라야 출루고 그래서 갑자기 그래서 군인 두 발을 잡네. 아니 가디 코 대체 돌아 파체말라 톱나 아니 코나노라 차르고 그래서 제가 그때 오셔야 되더라. 아니 인지대 라버스 아 정말 저 노르스 되네 말했어. 아니 빠자대 돌아 파체말라 제발랑 근데 쇼게 가서 빠자 가사레스. 근데 배자는 열에서 난 남지 저도 배자 맞게 되더라. 근데 그 들이 정어렸어. 제가 나도 드네 대시 자도나 그 띵사본 받아내. 대서 여러분 전화 드리다.
So anyway, there was this in the library in Asera monastery. There's a monk, who is like the librarian, right? So he was explaining about the text, to this Westerner who came, and then Westerners, he has already studied. Like some of you now get some idea about, when you abandon, and does it exist or not, or has it been abandoned, right? Now the monk was telling the Westerner, so that when you, when you achieve the path, under the path of, the path of seeing, and then at that time you apply the antidote, and then that's the time when you cease the delusion. And then the Westerner was already somebody who have studied about it, and he said, no, you are explaining wrong. Even though they abandoned at that time, but it's already ceased long time ago. It doesn't exist. The ceasing have already happened before that. Only abandoning it happens at that time.
제가 대님아 저마대 대배들 제가 고마시레스. 당간에 지금에서 제도면 됐어.
Then it says that the guy, the librarian, he stepped down, from the position, saying that he's not able to, do that anymore.
제가 남정아도 배나 고마카가 내가 제게도 남주 빼샤셔라 마당에서 그랬어. 아니 국가요 말았어.
So usually in the monasteries, the staff who are working for the monastery, are the people who are not very good at studies. So because they're not good at studies, so they're given a job to do it at the monastery.
어제 다 가다 지나서 가르다나 아니 돈다 시다 빠져라 녀답다 시덤니 이세트. 아니 녀답 세야되게 또 아니 다치 먹고 뭐 도발라 받으시 그래서 시르세와데 또 상제 고바 또 받으시 대하고서.
And so the abandonments, there are two, right? Obstruction, deluded obstructions, and the obstruction to omniscience. So deluded obstruction is the obstruction that obstructs one from achieving liberation, and the obstruction, to omniscience is the obstruction that obstructs one from achieving state of full enlightenment.
아니 다 어때 파잖아. 오늘 다 수방한다. 된 돈하다 고난이 빵고래. 빵에 다 돈을 남니 작은 왔어. 또 빵에데.
So who abandons those deluded obstructions and obstruction to omniscience, are the practitioners on the path of seeing and path of meditation.
아니 돈하고 빠져 강에 받들라 녀접 아마 녀접지 아니 꼰다지 아니 고나고 빠져 강에 받들라 다 쪼고 시접지 아니 때라 렌제 다니자고 그래서
돈벌라 시리벼라네.
라 요도요 다 쪼고 녀접지 안데 까다지 야 곰발라 쪼고 시접지 안데 렌제지.
And so abandonments, mainly, that is abandoned, in the path of seeing, are the deluded obstruction, and that's the acquired, deluded obstructions, and on the mainly, right. So of course they do have the innate, and the obstruction to omniscience, but mainly they abandon deluded obstructions, and that is the acquired one, and in the path of meditation. Of course, there is the acquired. There's the innate. So mainly it's in abandoned. The innate obstruction to omniscience. There is the obstruction to. There can be deluded obstruction also, but mainly obstruction to omniscience.
아니 다 빠다 그러나 빠다데 사원 빠요건 빠다. 이 사원 가디 빠나 빠나 그래서.
And so how it is abandoned. So like what is the criteria of having is having abandoned. So the measure, and when can you say it is abandoned? And whenever you have abandoned the seed, then you can say you have abandoned. Until you have not abandoned the seed, even though it doesn't exist, you cannot say it is abandoned because it can still arise.
What do you mean
by the seed, right? The seed of delusion. What is the seed? The seed, is by meeting with which the delusions can arise again. So that's called the seed.
아니 바차세도 뉴모고 저거 말이야. 되게 깨지네야. 뉴모 셴바 되네 용거서 왔어.
So then the imprint imprint doesn't make it rise again and make the delusions rise again. But when that meets with the condition that can cause other delusions to rise, like in this case, the imprint of the deluded obstruction will be the obstruction to omniscience.
제가 강다도 제가 매워 던지때 빵고 말했을 때 아니 조롱받던 통로바가 자초송아.
So just because it doesn't exist in the mind of the person doesn't mean that person has abandoned it. Just like the person or the practitioner on the path of preparation and a path of under the path of seeing, it doesn't exist, but they have not abandoned yet.
다 오늘 대방당되지. 다 오늘 대 뉴모도 간지의 샤기로 건다지라 간지 깨거든나. 아니 통보다 로직군이 시그레스. 공바다 사이군이 시그레스.
And then so that's how they abandon, right? So how they abandon, and so then how do you apply and how do you pause it? How do you pause it? The delusions. So in the path of seeing, through the wrong engagements, right? Wrongly engaging wrongly in the object, and then in the path of meditation, it is through the grounds.
Okay, and then 사탕보 사니바 사슴바 사시바 상가 같은 게 was.
Like the first ground, second ground, fourth, third ground, fourth ground, fifth ground, like that.
Okay. 오다 대직다처럼 도도로 오지 세션에 따된 데 다시한테 파는나 다 요다 고 저는 고 비하들 뭐 요르스.
So that's in the short, just the like combining all together like that. In short, you can say that. But of course, if you go and expand it, it can be expanded. And it will be only maybe creating more confusion to you.
다 텔레야 답답대라나 가른 토발하나 가른나 다 짜녀주 그랬어.
And then to make it even easier, if someone were to ask you what is the abandonment of the path of seeing, you can say there's 6 root delusions.
아니 시럽라나 가르나 아니 되게 바차다 아니 데마더바도 된다더랬어.
And what is the obstruction to omniscience? It is the imprint of those delusions and grasping at true existence.
오다 들어 내가든 잠깐 가서 빼셔야 따되겠나 대 고하더라고 말이야. 된다다 예접시대만 뭐야 아니 가로 자녀투의 얘기는 대처는 대 말에도 삼대가 가지.
And so so even if you have studied all this script, the philosophical texts, but if you don't understand that, then you might still keep thinking that the 6 true delusions are not the abandonments of the path of seeing.
그러나 얘기하려고 그 예접다 히럽라 되거든. 와 대자다 뭐도 말에 삼대가 그랬어.
And so because there it's talking about deluded obstruction and obstruction to omniscience, right? And so therefore it almost they almost think that the 6 root delusions are irrelevant with the deluded obstruction and obstruction to omniscience.
Okay. How's it? More confused? It's a little bit clear. Oh, I couldn't hear. Jennifer, you just. I see you heard. I don't hear you.
I think it seems very clear. Okay. The way you explained it, Geshe. Thank you.
We tried to a little bit further. It's very, very hard to, we didn't study that way. It was not very hard to explain that. That did you mother and also say Yonjo said it. Say Yonjo Pop Mambo show the Tayan Kaji and the Saturday and they say the thing out of the data was yes, did you mother?
And so the next time we're going to talk about is it the quality of the grounds?
Quality? Say Yonjo said
is that the term? But anyway, it's the quality of the the grounds, right? So that's, we talked about the total purification, reason for others.
사 용조래들.
Say 용조라 가라 그러다.
다사 동보라 용조 지지 이발라니 숨발은 망보래야.
So it's talking about the distinguishing qualities, the qualities, of the paths, right? I mean the grounds, right? So the first ground has these qualities, and second ground has this quality like that.
다들 좀 레레 정가 작으면 그 정가지나 그 대답에 다 시당가도 저 노동으로 가려 받고 되는 거.
So that again also we're not going to count, one by one, but we'll just like talk in short. What does it mean?
그 틱대도 펜 도시다면 양아도 레레 로드나 그 남자는 지바시에 대해서로 남자는 양한테 고비되는 차로도.
Yeah, so that that we'll maybe have better understanding. Otherwise, when we go one by one, it all seems like it's all talking about the same thing, but there's a difference, so then that creates the confusion.
Okay.
Did you want to go over the homework, Geshe?
I think I have to go. Do you find something?
I don't know if it's right, but I found something.
Yeah, what does it say?
Well, I think that, so the question is since there is no true cessations in the mind of ordinary beings, how is there grasping at true cessations as truly existing? But the referent object of the grasping at true cessations as truly existent is a truly existent true cessations, which doesn't exist. So yeah, so they're two different objects. Grasping at true cessations that's truly existent is the referred object of the wrong consciousness that conceives of it as truly existent, whereas it's not the same object as true cessations.
그래서.
The true cessation, if there's no true cessation, how can you grasp at the true cessation as existing truly, right?
Right.
So that's the question.
Right.
And so you're saying that there is a true existence? True cessation?
I'm saying the reason you can do that is because the conception of true cessations as truly existent is a wrong consciousness. So the referent object is the truly existent true cessations. It's not true cessations.
그거야.
나도 뭐라 생각하다 나도 다 고den서 고den 고바 덴바 덴바도 덴지지라
네.
팀아도 줄라 컨데시오레스 아도 줄라 고den 메나 데네 고den 덴바도 덴지 컨데 시레스 다 투어디라 다디스던다 뭐라 생각하다 나도 덴바도 가서 고den 요 말데나 고den 가서 덴바도 레스는 록시죠 디어레스
지금 고대ችን 하고 오면 그냥 나도 달 맞아 로조지 재미있는 고대ችን 하고 오면.
So somebody who have no idea about the true cessation, right? Who have not heard the word true cessation at all, let alone the meaning of true cessation, who haven't even heard the word.
Okay.
Is there a grasping at the true cessation as exists from its own side?
Well, that wasn't the question.
Yeah, I know. I just add that.
So in the mind of the person, who have never heard about the true cessation or has no idea what true cessation is there a grasping at true cessation as existing truly?
Anyway, I think me study you're not very clear. Try to still fun, okay? We do next week we'll start that. Okay, now I have to go. Okay.
Thank you so much, Geshe. Thank you.
Okay.
Geshe.
Thank you, Geshe.
Thank you.